Hello, gorgeous woman, and welcome to this exclusive and very special series of the Rebel Matriarch podcast, Mystics Unhinged. In this space, our beautiful mystics are coming forth and they are speaking unfiltered, unedited, uncensored truths that every woman needs to hear, especially you. So buckle up, get ready, and let's get started. Hello, gorgeous human beings, and welcome to the next episode of Mystics Unhinged on the Rebel Matriarch podcast. My name is Samantha Sanford. I am your host. And today on this installment of Mystics Unhinged, this woman is a walking narrative. There are so many stories, there's so much wisdom, and I can't even scratch the surface on the power that's going to come through in this conversation. Just touching the surface with her before the call, we were talking about, like womb wisdom and healing the womb and the pelvic. And I was like, this is a really important conversation because I'm very much about the matriarchy and very much about women empowerment. And I know that the womb is the essence of that. And so whatever your journey has been, I feel like you're very much an important piece of the matriarch rising. And so I've got full body tingles. And so, Jamie, I am so freaking excited to be having you on the podcast with me today. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to see what comes through and what is unveiled.
Me too, because my favorite part of my podcast is that there's no structure to it other than it's intuitively led. And so often the conversations go like to the coolest, most strangest places. And so I love it. And I know that in your experience, in this current life experience, so far, you've had two near-death experiences that have led you on a really important, incredible path. And
Yeah.
I don't even know what that looks like, what that feels like. Are you open to sharing more about what those experiences were like for you?
Yeah, of course. I think it's important to know that prior to these near-death experiences, my first one, I was a spiritual facilitator and I was holding a lot of healing space for other women. I've come from an abusive marriage as well, and I was an engineer that turned healer. So I've been through a lot of lifetimes before my near-death experiences, but I want to really note that I was bleeding excessively from my uterus for 9 years. And I was told that this was normal because I was diagnosed with PCOS, and that's just like the normal thing that happens to you. And so I was actually on a retreat and facilitating a retreat in Ibiza. And we were on an excursion and I was walking up this hill. And all of a sudden, I thought I was about to have like a heart attack. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? What's happening? And I had to stop in my tracks and start to like really focus on my breathing. Um, and I said, there's something going on here. I'm only like 33 years old. Like I'm healthy, as you would say. And I went back home to New York and went to the doctor and they did all of the blood work and whatnot. And I went home and the doctor called me and said, you need to come in right away. You're about to go into heart failure. And I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. He was like, I don't even know how you're existing right now or even walking right now. Like, you have no blood in your body. Your hemoglobin is at a 6. And usually, normally for a woman, it's at a 12 or a 14. So I go in, and that started my journey and evolution of coming back to the body and being able to understand how important it is to be able to have self-advocacy, to be able to speak up for yourself, to be able to be connected with your body so that you can have a voice and understand and decode the signals that are happening for you. And I spent 11 months in the hospital, in and out, while on this journey, I was getting a lot of infusions and blood transfusions. They didn't know where the source of my bleeding was coming from after a lot of trial and error and whatnot. I was also gaslit a lot. My um, gynecologist actually was like, "Do you know that if you get a hysterectomy, that like you don't have to see me anymore in my office?" And I'm like, "What?" Like that's how much these professionals didn't want to see me because I was in a wheelchair, I was bedbound, I couldn't walk, I could hardly even eat or anything. And so I was in a space where I was in survival. You know, I was trying to survive. And there was this moment at the end of the 11 months in the hospital where my first near-death experience happened to me. And it was 2 a.m. I'm in the ER. And if you've ever been in the ER, you know that those nurses, like, they don't stay around and talk to you. You know what I mean? And this guy sat by my bedside and talked to me about the Bible and talked to me about Catholicism and whatnot. And just so you know, like my history is like I grew up Catholic. I was the altar girl, like good girl and everything like that. But also, too, I was a spiritual facilitator now. Like I had my own viewpoints on what spirit was, on what God was, on what universe was. And I was mad. I was mad at my team. I was like, fuck you. How dare you not support me when I have been supporting these women and healing them? How dare you not be there for me and put me on my deathbed? And so I was so closed off to God, my spirit guides, woo woo, everything. And so he's talking to me about this for 2 hours. I go up to my room. It's during COVID time as well. I'm actually not able to like get up and walk by myself. So they put like a toilet next to me. And the nurse at the time said, "Hey, James, like, you're gonna have surgery in the morning. Like, don't worry about it. Just get some rest." And he walks out of the room, and I'm like, there is no way. If I get surgery tomorrow, like, if I get put under anesthesia, I'm leaving. Like, I'm not staying around. I'm not suffering. I'm not dealing with this over and over and over again. And I was terrified. There was a part of me that wanted to live and that felt like I didn't live yet. You know, I was only 33 years old. I was divorced. I didn't have any kids or anything like that. And I'm like, I want to live those experiences within my life still. And all of a sudden, I just started to get really panicky. I had tachycardia. And I'm like, okay, maybe I have to go to the bathroom. And I get up to go onto the toilet next to me. And all of a sudden, I drop to the floor and I see myself within the room looking at myself on the floor. And I'm like, what is going on and what is happening? And of course, because I'm in this realm, in this world, and I always see spirit and I hear spirit, and I'm also a trance channeler as well. I go right to my feet. I'm like, okay, what am I wearing on my feet? And I was barefoot. And all of a sudden, I heard this voice like outside the window, "Jamie, come here." And there was this like red light shining through. And so I go to the window and I see this silhouette of this white light silhouette. You could tell it was like a human, whatnot silhouette. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, who is, in my mind, I'm like, who is this? And then in my mind responded, oh, this is God. And I was like, okay. And all of a sudden he said, don't worry, there's a doctor that's going to come in the morning. She's going to tell you that you don't need surgery and that you're going to live. I want to tell you that you're going to live. And then once I heard that, it was gone. And I walked back into the room. And all of a sudden, I had this like tunnel vision. It was like all of these lights going on either side of me. And I wake up to three nurses around me, like trying to like revive me. And in the morning at 6 a.m., a woman doctor came in and said, "It's COVID time and we're not going to do surgery on you." And in that moment, I'm like, okay. That was the beginning of my revival of my relationship with God, my relationship of the unknown. I believe that that guy, that nurse that was talking to me was there to be able to break down that resistance for me to be able to actually be receptive to this message and to this experience of having that. So, yeah, that was my first near-death experience. And right after that, the day after, 6 doctors came in and said, "Jaime, we actually don't know where the bleeding's coming from. I'm really sorry. There's nothing else we can do. You're gonna die." And in
Thanks,
that
guys.
moment, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say thanks, like thanks, guys. I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
yeah,
Especially like to hear it from doctors, like to be able, like they're very direct with me,
yeah.
to say that. And I just remember that experience of God of saying like you're not going to die. And I just in that moment right there, I'm like, I have to take back my authority. I have to take back my authority. I've done it your way. I've done it the doctor's way. I've done it the medical way. Now it's my turn. Um, and I left that room, turned to the internet and was like, I'm a healer that needs to support of being healed. And that's where my journey started of this evolution of reconditioning myself and healing my womb and coming back into relationship with my body because I resented her so much. And because I did so much spiritual and energetic work, I was a master at that, but I wasn't a master at my body and how to be able to actually embody my mastery in my work. So, yeah.
When you say you resented your body, what does that look like for you?
Yeah. You know, for me, it was, I want to live. Why don't you want to live? What am I not listening to? What am I not getting right? What do I need to do to prove to you like I'm here for you, I was scared of her that I couldn't even wipe myself because I was scared that I was gonna inflict more bleeding. Like when I say excessive bleeding, I mean excessive bleeding, like pints of blood a day. And so it was just this survival mechanism of I don't want to hurt her even more. And that created more distance and disconnection with her, and I saw her as separate than me, and that she had her own agenda and anything that I did, like she didn't like, and so I had to come back into relationship to understand her more at a different type of perception.
Yeah, it's really important. And I know that you've had the extreme experience of being disconnected from your body and resenting your body. And I really want to draw women's attention. So to the ladies that are listening, most of us had those same experiences as you, where we're disconnected from our bodies, we're resenting our bodies for all the wrong reasons, right? Because it doesn't look a certain way, it doesn't feel a certain way, it's not performing a certain way, and so there's a lot of resentment on a smaller scale. But I feel
Yeah.
like there's a reason that you've gone through an extreme one, and you've got really important lessons for us to learn. And so I'm just drawing everyone's attention to that. We all do exactly what Jaime did at this point. And you said that you had to really come back to your body and like reconnect. And
Mhm.
what was that like?
I had to come back into relationship with trust within myself because I had to realize that I was neglecting my body. I was neglecting the nourishment of her. I was neglecting the signals of her prior to this even happening, in the hospital, the extremeness. I was neglecting her. And as a child, it was definitely a wound for me because all I was taught because I desired my mother's love in a different type of capacity and way where she would hold me and love me and tell me that she loved me and give me that type of like physical touch and love,
Mm.
that the only way that she would do that was when I was sick. And so I actually attached me becoming sick to being able to receive love. And I would put myself in detriment so that I could actually experience love in that type of way and facet. And it didn't matter if another person was capable of giving me love in the way that I desired it. I was in full on attachment. The only way that I was validated in who I was and my worthiness and being here on earth was if my mother gave me that love in that type of way, even though she wasn't capable. And so I had to face the reality of like, James, like, don't die for somebody that is not capable of providing you the love that you desire. You need to take that into your own hands. You need to be your own mother. You need to be your own caretaker. You need to be the one that nourishes yourself. And I didn't know how to do that because I was taught to neglect myself when I was younger. I was taught by my mom that that was what being able to tend to myself and my life and my body was. Like I was never taught. There was a lot of shame even in growing up in religion, with body and sexuality and sensuality. Like, we are never taught as women how to be able to tend to our own bodies and be able to love and touch and honor the body and our tissues with reverence, with consent, with love, and being able to give ourselves what we need. So for me, that journey had to start with coming back to truth and like getting real with myself. What am I doing and what am I not doing? And what do I need support in? Because I was like, oh, I'm a healer. I can do everything. I'm powerful as fuck, right? Like I was like, I definitely had that ego, like I'm channeling these spirits and I'm talking to guides and I'm holding space for women that are healing. Like I'm powerful, but I'm not infinite. I guess that's, I don't know if that's the word that I'm trying to use here. Like I'm not a superhero where I can take on everybody else's stuff and process it within my body because that's what I was doing. It's like, oh, I can handle it. I can process it. I can heal them through my own body. It's like I was putting so much detriment on myself because I didn't value me. I didn't value me as a human. I valued me as a channel and I saw that as separate. But I didn't value my body of what container I was in. Every time I looked at the mirror, I'd look at my eyes because I'd recognize my soul, but I didn't recognize the form that I have been in, like it wasn't recognizable to me because it felt like it wasn't the expression of myself and who I was and how I felt internally. So it started with that first. Yeah,
Incredible. Because I imagine not long after you had another near-death experience.
I
And so,
did.
and I feel like that is an important piece of the puzzle to your story as well, in coming back to your body.
Yeah. So I want to say this is that like I when I took to the internet to be able to say I'm a healer that needs to be healed, the reason why was that I needed people that felt the same way and believed in the same way of healing that I did, because I didn't have the capacity to hold the energy and heal myself at the same time. So I needed people that could support me, that held me within that belief as well. And so I had 5 different types of mentors that actually healed themselves in their own right of dis-ease, that could hold me in that type of capacity. A big one was also like Joe Dispenza's healing team and whatnot. We're doing a lot of healings on me as well. But for me, it was this physical touch that made me come back to the body and come into presencing of listening to her without expectation. And that's what I was doing to be able to recondition myself, to be able to learn how to walk, to be able to learn how to come back into harmony with my, body. And, at the time was taking a lot of medication and PTSD so bad that I was like rocking myself at night so that I could just like stay awake, because I'm like, if I die, I want to die in the light. I don't want to die in the darkness. And so I was prescribed a lot of medication. And for me, that wasn't something that I wanted to do. I wanted to be natural, you know what I mean? Medication that they gave me pulmonary embolisms where no doctor wanted to see me, right? And I was such a hard case. So, anyways, I wanted to privy that of like, I was doing the work of self-sacred touch and coming back to my body right before I had my second near-death experience.
What
And
what does like sacred touch look like? Or
yeah,
self-sacred touch?
so self-sacred touch is, I mean, it's really easy. It's just your hand on your skin. Um, and sometimes we hold it there and sometimes we move. But what you're doing is listening to the tissues underneath, and you can start to feel like the tingling sensation on your hands underneath them. And that's like your body is connecting to you. Okay. Your body is observing you, like, okay, like this time, are you going to listen to me? Are you going to abandon me? Are you going to suppress me? Like it's observing you as well to be like, can I trust you? Are you safe? Or do you have an expectation of me to give to you? And so what's happening when we create that connection with our hand and our tissues, even if you just put your hand on your chest and whatnot, is that you're establishing that safety and you stay. And I think that that's the biggest thing is like, when have you ever stayed longer than 2 minutes? When have you ever stayed with your body and your touch longer than 10 minutes? Longer than an hour? Like we have all made it very normal for somebody else to touch our bodies, a stranger to actually tend to our tissues, to listen to it for us, and to override our signals, whether they're going too fast or too slow or not having consent. And I think that that is really important as well as women, is that we don't think about consent. We think about consent when bad things have happened to us in a sexual way, right? But we don't think about consent in being able to touch my arm or hold my hand or touch my breasts, especially in partnership. There's a lot of overriding there because of roles and responsibilities and duties that we have been portrayed and reflected upon because of societal factors of things of the patriarchal aspect, you know what I mean? So it's really important when we come into reverence with ourselves, we ask for consent so that our body has that choice to be tended to or not, to be touched or not, to be revitalized or not. And that's another thing is like when we're touching, we're actually activating dormant cells within ourselves so that the signals can come on and we have this life force that's within us. We talk about spirituality and the soul and, the energetics in the auric field is like, that's what we're doing. We're revitalizing that when we're tending to ourselves, when we're making ourselves a priority and saying, I'm heard, I'm seen, I'm acknowledged. We're doing that ourselves. And the cells are like, hell yeah, I'm on board, baby. Let's go. Right. And not only that is like so many women are so desensitized, especially in our vulva region. When was the last time that you've touched your vulva and your inner labias with reverence and honor and slowness? Like, when was the last time you felt the blood flow in your tissues and the engorgement that happens for that desire to come online? It's like we have never been able to be taught this and that it was okay, that it's not, demonized or sexualized in a way of shame, and most women have been taught by like porn or other men to be able to touch themselves and they're jacking off just to get off, right? But a woman needs to be tended to her tissues of safety, of being like, I am the Holy Grail. And I need to be loved and honored and touched and fucked like I am too. You know what I mean? And so we need to be the advocacy. We need to hold that within our hands to be able for our hands to be the medicine, because when we start to touch ourselves, we're like, oh, now I can tell my partner how I like to be touched, And you go on this explorative journey of being able to have this beautiful relationship with your body because you're resensitizing where you've disconnected from trauma, from expectation, from a civilization of society of projection and whatever is imprinted within you that we don't want to deal with. That's why a lot of women are like, wait, I need to touch my body. I'm scared
Yeah.
because we have to actually come up against truth. We're actually standing at the edge of the threshold of saying, this is the truth of who I am, and this is everything that I have been through and experienced within myself, within my lifetime, and that I have suppressed, that I have said, not yet, that I've said, you're not a priority. And I want to say one other thing because I think at this time, nervous system regulation is big within this industry, right? Somatics is big, okay? But tapping on your chest for 90 seconds is abandonment. And I want to say that with love and respect because I want you to be informed, everyone to be informed with like, it's just saying, hey, I don't have time to actually sit with this emotion and what you want to be able to tell me and express to me within your feeling that you're having right now. Because I have to have 10 other things on my to-do list, or my kids are screaming in the background, or whatever the dynamic might be that's happening. And so, yeah, I'm going to tap you away for 90 seconds to be able to have a temporary regulation, but it's going to come back because it's instilled within your body. You're not regulating, you're just distracting. And so this work is really going to the depths of your cellular composition of who you are in all bodies of emotional, physical, spiritual, and coming and combining it together. You don't have to do mindset work and tapping and all of the things. You can do it all at once, just through the touch of your hand. And I think that that is fucking incredible because we ask for the ease and the effortless in a world and society of urgency, right? Of fight or flight, that we pride ourselves on do and go and oh my God, I hit 100K month and whatnot, and we strive for that consistency. I have to post online 10 times a day to be able to get 3 likes, you know but I'm over here being like, I'm the embodiment of a woman that advocated for her womb, for her body, so that she still has it, so that she still has choice, so that she can have remembrance, so that she can be the advocate for other women and teaching them that they have choice. And so that was a long-winded story before my next near-death experience, but I'm just going with it, girl.
Girl, I'm just sitting in full body tingles because you said I'm an advocate for the womb, right? And it's just blowing my mind how much women are not advocates for their womb. That you say
Yeah.
that, and most of them are like, "What are you talking about?" And it's like, hang on a second. This is spiritual as well as physical.
Yeah.
When you said that, I was like, there is like no respect for the womb from
Mhm.
men or women. because it's never been modeled, it's never been prioritized, it's never been cared for. And it is literally the creation of all things,
Yeah. All life force.
all life
And
force.
all life force. And women are being told, especially in perimenopause, right? It's a big transition within our lives that like we're broken if you have low libido, that our inner labias are going to shrivel up one day. We're just going to wake up and they're going to be gone. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? No, it's because we're not being tended to. Our tissues are not being engorged. They're not being honored, loved, and respected. And they're like, fuck you, I'm done, you know? And I have had women who have taken like arousal gummies, like just to try, or vibrators and whatnot to be able to get their libido back so that they can please their husband. Or like they'll just like roll over to be able to stick it in and they'll just deal with being raped for 2 to 3 minutes, because that's their duty. And then when they come in my table, and I had this woman where I was tending to her breasts and it was 7 minutes. Of 7 minutes, I was tending to her breasts. And she goes, Jim, can you stop? And I'm like, yeah. And she goes, I feel really ashamed right now. And I'm like, why? And she goes, because I'm feeling wet. And I'm like, okay. And she was like, and you're a woman. And I said, okay. And she said, why can't I do this with my husband? Like, why do I have to take the arousal gummies? Why do I have to have the vibrator? Why do I have to do all of these things? Like my body's not broken. Like you just showed that to me. And I said, because I have no expectation of you, love. And I'm listening to how your tissues want to be held, how they want to be massaged, how they want to be tended to. That moment was like, oh my God, when a woman is like, I am not broken. I just haven't been tended to with love and honor and respect. Then it's like, wow. Then it's this reclamation of their power of where else am I giving my power away? Where else am I letting other people lead my life, lead my body, speak for me, choose for me, right? And, you know, my second near-death experience, I just want to speak on this of the womb advocacy part of it. I um actually just got off of a plane. I was in 6 weeks. I was in a health institute, trying to see what was going on with my body, actually get a diagnosis because they had accessibility to so many people around the world. They've only seen 2 cases like mine before. Like out of all of the world doctors that they have talked to, only 2 cases that they've seen. And they've seen, and they were very frank with me. They said, if you don't get this under control, you're going to die just because of all of the bleeding that has been happening and whatnot. And I said, okay. And I come back onto the plane and I start to excessively bleed while I'm on the plane. And I'm like, Jane, don't go there. You're good. This is just a normal period. We got this, right? 2 days later, I'm starting not to be able to walk. So I know, okay, I am losing a lot of blood. I go to my hematologist. They're like, yeah, you're at a 7, but we can't give you blood until you're at a 6. And we have to be able to also get consent from or approval from your insurance company to give you an iron infusion. So I'm like, it's like I'm waiting for the blood to drain out of me so that they can give me more blood, right? And at the time, I had a functional doctor. So I went to him and he was able to give me iron infusions. And I was in the chair. They had to actually carry me because I couldn't walk. And I'm getting iron. And my doctor comes in front of me and goes, James, we need to take you to the hospital. You need blood. I'm afraid that like you're gonna die actually sitting here. And I'm like, okay, this is like the third time somebody has told me I'm gonna die this week. So they rush me to the hospital. I go into the ER. I start uncontrollably shaking, and I got really, really cold. So I asked for those blankets that are warm, in the ER, and they start putting like all of these blankets on me. I'm like, I'm still cold, I'm still cold, I'm still cold. There must have been like over 15 blankets on me, and I was shivering. Um, and the nurse said something. She said, "Hey, like your blood came back and it's at a 6." And right in that moment, I just went black. Um, and I had my second near-death experience. I don't want to go fully into everything and all the experiences because it was really long. But I will tell you one instance that had happened um, when I was in hospital the first time. Um, right before I went to the hospital, I got a doctor called me from home. And I was about to lay down my head and go to bed because I was so weak. I never had any energy or whatnot. And so I was trying to sustain anything that I would get. And my mom runs into my room and saying, "Hey, Jamie, our doctor's on the phone." I'm like, "Okay." And I get on the phone, and it was from my GP doctor. And I haven't seen him in a couple of days. And I was like, "Okay, this is weird." There was a woman on the phone that said, "You need to go to the hospital right away." And in that moment, I'm like, if anybody tells me to go to the hospital, I will. I'll get saline, I'll get blood, whatever I need, I will get it, right? And I said, "Okay." She goes, "No, you need to go right now." And I said, "Okay." So I told my parents, "We got to go to the hospital." I'll go to the hospital. And that was the moment that they found out that I had pulmonary embolisms throughout my body. And that the doctors left the room, and one of the doctors said, "Thank God that she got here because another 10 minutes and she would have died." And I sat back and I called my GP and I was like, "Thank God you had that woman call me." And he was like, "What are you talking about?" And I was like, "A woman called me from your office, told me to go to the hospital." And he was like, "Well, let me check the logs." And he checked the logs. He's like, "Yeah, it does say that somebody called you." He was like, "But it's really weird because our office closes at 4 and they called you at 5:02. And my birthday is 5:02." And he said, "We don't have anybody working the phones." He was like, Must have been a miracle." And I just sat back and was like, "Holy shit." You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what happened. I don't know who that woman was or whatnot. But in my second near-death experience, I went back to that experience and I actually saw who called me on the other side of the phone was me, was another version of me. And I was like, "Oh, like, so like I saved my own life." And it was like these different instances of the same thing of when I was on the brink of death, being able to see me step in and save me, or tell me to do something and I would do it so that I could live. And all of a sudden, I just screamed out, "What does this mean? What does this mean?" While I'm in my near-death experience, I'm like, "What does this mean?" And all of a sudden, I heard, "You are God." And then, right in that moment, I came back with the doctors on top of me because I was going into heart failure. And that moment was like really pivotal for me in understanding that we are the creators of our own life. And also at the same time, is that that next day, doctors came into my room, gynecologists, all women doctors, saying, "Jamie, you need a hysterectomy or you're going to die." Literally, same thing. These doctors are very direct with me. And I'm like, "Well, what is the source of my bleeding?" And they're like, "We don't know, but if there's nothing like we can do, you have to get a hysterectomy." And I was like, "But tell me why I need to get a hysterectomy." Because if the reason of my bleeding isn't in my womb, then I'm still going to have issues in other places. And they couldn't give me an answer. And they just gave me like a surgery date that if I wanted it. So they walked out, a male doctor comes in, and I'm hysterical. And he goes, "What's going on?" And I said, "I'm not being heard." And he goes, "Okay." And he walked out. And in that moment for myself, I'm like, "James, if you need surgery, then you need to be open to it because you just died yesterday. Like, that's a real thing that happened, you know?" And so I wrote this list down of what I wanted if I needed a procedure. I didn't want to go fully on under anesthesia. I wanted to be able to have kids if I desired to be able to have kids. And those were like the biggest things. I had other things as well. But 2 hours later, a woman doctor walks in and she sat down and goes, "I have 6 options for you. You're not getting a hysterectomy." And she just sat there and talked to me through every single thing of all of my options and whatnot. And I think that was the biggest manifestation of my life because when I did get a procedure, which was in alignment with everything that I wrote down on that list, the doctor came out of that procedure and said, "James, your uterus is perfect. There's no thickening of the walls. There's no fibroids. There's no cysts. There's nothing in there. It is perfect. Thank God you didn't get a hysterectomy." And I sit with myself of like, fuck yeah, James. You advocated for your body. You spoke up. You were given options. You took that option. And now moving forward, it was, okay, I need to teach women how to be able to have a voice for themselves, for their bodies. Because right now, I healed my excessive bleeding. I no longer have to take medication. I have a normal cycle. I wouldn't have been able to experience that again if I took the word of someone else that didn't know my body. And so that's my womb advocacy story of why I'm here today.
This is really important. I was very emotional as you were sharing that story, by the way. And I don't normally get emotional because I can hold space for a lot. But when you said I'm not being heard, it's just, reflecting on my own experiences with being pregnant and having to go through 2 emergency C-sections,
Mm-hmm.
and no one listening. They don't listen.
Mm-hmm.
But then also knowing that so many women wouldn't even know how to advocate for themselves because they're so disconnected from their bodies that they don't trust what their bodies are telling them. And so a doctor will come in or a medical professional will come in and say, "This is what needs to happen." And they say, "Yes, doctor. Okay, whatever you recommend, I trust you with my body and my life."
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is that probably more than 50% of the time, maybe even 80%, it's the wrong diagnosis or it's the wrong approach, or they're putting you into a box that ticks their boxes. They're covering their asses because they don't want to get sued.
Yeah.
And they're doing things on an extreme so that they don't get sued. And you're not
Yes.
actually getting the care that you need, and your body's not being heard, and we're not hearing our bodies. And so this conversation and you sharing your womb advocacy, and for anyone who has been pregnant or had children, this is a big piece as well, because so many women have ended up having a hospital birth and going through the normal processes, not realizing it's not normal. It's just blowing my mind how important your work is. And you were talking before about how simple it can be in terms of putting your hand, like your hand on your skin, not
Yeah.
through your clothes, right? On the skin. And you were saying, how often do you sit there for 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour? Like, I don't think I've ever sat there for an hour. Maybe 20 minutes, half an hour if I was doing like a meditation or someone was trans channeling and I was sort of receiving it.
Mm-hmm.
But on my own, like not receiving, but actually listening, I don't think I've ever really done that
Mm-hmm.
for longer
Yeah.
than 5.
Yeah.
Like what? And then we wonder, like, why are we so Why are we so sick? Why do we have so much dis-ease? Oh
Mhm.
my gosh, Jamie, what
Yeah.
is happening? What are we
Yeah.
doing? Your work
Yeah.
is so important.
I know. I know. And we don't know. Dis-ease is because the body has been signaling to us over and over and over again, and now it's screaming. Now you have to listen to me. Because before I
Even then.
whispered, but now I'm yelling. Yeah,
Yeah. But even then it's
exactly.
yelling, right? And we're like, okay, okay, like I have to go to the doctor now, right? Because I can't
Right.
ignore this symptom. But then even then, we're going to the wrong we're going to the wrong person
Yeah.
and we're getting the
Ex-
wrong information or the wrong approach. Because it's like, well,
Yeah.
here's a medication.
Yeah.
Like, but why is this happening? Well, we're not sure, but it's likely because of dot dot dot. And this is a medication to support that. So take this and you'll be right.
Hmm.
And
Exactly.
we're not right.
Yeah. That's
So
why a lot of women think like them getting a hysterectomy, especially after they've had kids and whatnot, is what to do so they don't have to deal with women problems anymore. But really, after hysterectomies, like I actually tend to a lot of women who have had hysterectomies because they have excruciating pain even more within their tissues because they haven't been tended to. They're not being heard, you know? So it's like we have other options. We just need to be able to understand what our options are and to advocate and speak about that and ask for it as well. And if we can't advocate for ourselves, who do we trust to it? Because I know, especially in birth, when women are giving labor, they're like putting all of these things in your face, sign away your life. You know what I mean? Can I give you this medication? Can I do this? Oh, if we have to take the baby or a C-section, like sign away here. And the woman is so bombarded when she's trying to actually give birth to a life, you know? And to trust her body and ease into the safety and trust within her body and self. So, yeah, we are ripped away of our own safety, of our own knowing, of our own authority over our bodies, because that's what we were learned. And when you were talking about, you know, the percentages of whatnot, 70% of women who get hysterectomies actually don't need them. 93% of women who go to a doctor aren't actually heard, and 60% of them are actually misdiagnosed because our actual medical statistics are with men and not with women. And so when women come into a emergency and saying, I have chest issues or I have a hip thing or whatnot, that is an indicator of something massive happening, thinking that, oh, it's just your hormones, you're just in perimenopause or menopause, or you just have anxiety. And then they end up dying within days because they weren't heard. 60% of women who actually are misdiagnosed die because they're not being heard. That is an alarming statistic. This is why we need to be able to come back to the body.
yeah. And trust what our body is telling us.
Mhm.
So how do we get there? Because it's while it may be a simple process, I feel like
Mm.
it's not an easy process, especially because we're conditioned to not take this approach. But you had excessive bleeding, and you shared uh, parts of your process of your journey, right? And it's only like a small part of it.
Small part, yeah.
And then you've gotten to a point where you had a procedure that felt in alignment, and you were heard. And then from that point, were there changes that you made? Did you connect with your body even deeper?
Uh,
What happened?
so um I did. I went through, the first time around it took me significantly, like I was in hospital for 11, in and out for 11 months, right? This time I was just in hospital for 6 weeks. So like me tending to my body in between that allowed me not only to have a voice, but also condition my body to the point of revival, even coming back into that. So afterwards, I started doing body touch practices, but also I became a womb and pelvic care practitioner. And so that I can support myself of understanding the anatomy, of understanding the tissues, of understanding trauma. I have, complex PTSD, obviously, from what I have been through. And so being able to understand trauma in the way that I did and spirituality in the way that I did and bridging it into the physical body and anatomy of your mitochondria, and that even though we talk about like protection energetically of ourselves, so do our cells. They have that physical protective barrier. If it does not feel safe, if your body does not feel safe, and I'm not talking about like you have a roof over your head and you got food, you know what I'm talking about? You actually feel so safe. There's not an attachment to money. There's not an attachment to somebody outside of self for safety or for nourishment or whatever that dynamic might be, that you can tend to yourself and provide yourself with everything, knowing that when you were emotionally fucking crumbling and you were like, oh my God, I don't know how I can ever navigate this or get through this point and whatnot, that your bones still have you, that they are the structure of your safety and sustainability, that they have always been there. They're not going to crumble. And being able to come back to our physical body of that touch of safety, it actually puts us into regulation. Our nervous system actually regulates of just holding the bones. And I want to speak to this as well because I've gone through this, and also to myself is like when I was being cared for and tended to for the first time in my own tissues by someone. I was so scared about the trauma. There's been a lot of people that have been in my womb. There's been a lot of people in my uterus. There has been a lot of situations where I've been overrid within my body and projected upon and whatnot. And when I was tended to for the first time internally into my yoni, when she put the gloves on, that instilled a memory within me where my body jumped off of the table and was like, fuck no, I'm not dealing with this. I'm not going to relive that trauma. And I want to say this because I got back on that table and I was able to say, hey, can you actually take it really slow with you putting on the gloves? Can you actually just touch my knee so that I can feel the gloves there before you actually insert? So I was dictating what my body needed to reinstill safety within my body to create a different type of experience than I had, so that I met my fear and my trauma head on, and that I knew that I had the power and authority to be able to instill that power within me, that I could do this, that I'm not helpless, that I'm not a victim, that I don't need somebody else to coddle me or someone else to take root of me or whatnot. I could do this myself. And I want to say that very clearly because this is what that work does. It meets you within your power and your fear, within the duality of life, gives you the opportunity to uproot, what has been instilled within your body and your tissues so that you can imprint it in a different type of way and capacity of love and acknowledgement and support and devotion and happiness. And so, um, for me, it was definitely a journey of that. And then for me, I saw it within my own, healing and capacity, that doctors are like astonished. They're doing medical testing on me because they can't believe that I healed myself this way. They can't believe that I no longer have to take a lifelong medication. And I'm like, every woman needs this. Every woman needs to be tended to. Every woman needs to be touched with reverence and honor and the slowness. You know, every time a woman gets on my table and I'm tending to her labias, they always are like, "Can you teach my partner? Can you teach my husband? Can you teach me?" You know? Because we've never been taught how to tend to ourselves with slowness because we're all in a let's get it. Let's get the result here. I don't have time for this. I have to do this, this, and this. But like I'll spend 3 hours on my body tending to myself. You know, I do 5 to 8 hours on a body a day with a woman for 3 days. And she comes out of that like, wow, I never knew that this was available to me. Never knew how to be touched. And not only that, it instills, right, that confidence within them. Women are actually speaking up and advocating for themselves because they know how to be safe within their bodies. And so, I mean, I can tell you how to do a simple practice if you would love to be able to do that. Um,
Yes, please.
yes. Okay.
Yeah. Well, 'cause I mean, you just said you can spend 5 to 8 hours on a woman's body over 3 days, like for 3 days in a session with you. And
Yeah.
I'm like, huh?
Mhm.
5 to 8. So for 5 to 8 hours, your hands
Mhm.
are on a woman
Mhm.
and you're sort of, I'm, I don't fully understand, but I do kind of understand. You're sort of like reconnecting touch and you're teaching the woman to receive touch and learning to like respond to her body and feel with her body and basically reconnecting her with the body, right? Through your touch. And
Yeah.
then, and are you
Or
exploring
through
her
their
whole
own.
body?
Yeah. So she's naked on the table. The first day, we obviously we go through intentions and whatnot and what she wants to be tended to. And because of like my spiritual background and shamanism and whatnot, like it's a combination of both. Like women are having past life regressions on the table, right? They're reliving memories. They are, screaming and crying and releasing and like being empowered within themselves, coming back to their primalness of woman. I had women growling, and roaring with themselves to be able to have their power come back to them because they thought their fire was too much. They thought their power was too much. So, like, when a woman gets on the table and I'm tending to her, we go to the bones first to be able to instill that safety. But she is, yes, she's naked, but it's all through consent. And I touch first within the back body and I go very, very slowly. Like I'm talking very, very, very slowly so that she gets into being able to understand what it's like to be touched with reverence and respect and also to reconnect to her body because like I said, we disconnect from our tissues because we don't want to feel the potency of trauma again. And so that's what we're doing. We're revitalizing the nerves. The nerves are like, oh, I'm safe to come back to the surface now and like feel this now. And then that has our intuition be revitalized even more. Then we can trust even more. Then we have more confidence, right? And so I tend to the full back body. And then in the morning of that next day, I do Watsu with them in the water. I don't know if you know what that is, but I hold a woman's body in the pool and I actually just intuitive movement with her body so that she can feel the safety that was just instilled within her body so that she knows that oh, I can rest within my back body. Like whenever we're always moving forward, right? We're always tilting our body forward to go forward. When have we ever rested and let life come to us, right? And so it's instilling that, like, wow, that freedom of knowing that this safety was instilled. So when safety is instilled, just like when we talk about divine masculine, right? The safety then when the feminine can come in and be her magical mastery self. And so then I tend to the front body, the breasts, the diaphragm, the stomach, the womb, the psoas, especially women who have gone into labor. There's so many tension within the psoas that when I tend to it, that is where a lot of women start to reclaim their power because they're like, I was overrid, I didn't know what to do. I was scared. I didn't have a voice. I was too much. I was being told to calm down. And, or there was a traumatic thing that happened or whatnot. And that point is really powerful in a woman. And then I go to the womb where every single life force, if we think about it, every single creation on earth is created from the womb, even if it's not physical. Everything that we birth is from the womb, our desire. It's where the spiritual and the physical meet and make that spark of life force, like of creation. Oh, it's like, fuck, why haven't we been taught that we are freaking creators of life? Like all life. That is a huge power to ignore. That is a huge power to suppress, you know? And then the third day, I call it, it's like this yoni glow, I call it, because, when we go through the whole body, we're uprooting trauma. Like I said, we're drumming, we're channeling, we're screaming, we're doing all of it that we need to do, and the memories that were instilled or the shame and whatnot is all released. And then we come into connection with the vulva, and I hold the vulva. And I ask a woman, I want you to say no. And I think that this is one of the most powerful instances that I do with holding a woman so that for the first time in their life, they can know what it feels like when they say no, somebody listens to them. And so when they say no, my hands go up. And they feel that conviction of being heard and having power and authority within their body in that moment. And then asking for consent of coming back and tending to each of the labias. And can I just go there? I'm gonna go
Yes,
there.
yes, please do.
Yeah. The labias are the most expressive part of our body. It's the most authentic part of our body. No one else has our labias. No one else has our vulva ever. And yet we are so ashamed of our own authenticity of self, the representation of who we are, how we differentiate from one another, the mastery that we bring forward, and also too the discernment. This is, if you are having a hard decision to make, we go to the vulva and she will tell you straight away, hell yeah, girl, go this way, or no, don't do this. But like that's what we do, is we come into connection of our body and what it signifies and how to listen to the body so that we understand what the signals it's actually saying to us. What is our yes? What is our no? What is the support that we need to be able to provide and be held within, And coming into relationship with our labias, it's that engorgement. It is literally made for pleasure. 8,000 nerve endings within our clitoris is made for pleasure. And yet we are overstimulated. We are exhausted and burnt out because we don't know how to be able to touch it with reverence, honor, and love. And coming back into, a lot of women have a hard time speaking up and saying, I want foreplay. It takes 25 minutes for our bodies to be tended to with reverence and love. I'm saying with reverence and love to be able to get us online. If we're not doing that, then it takes a longer time, right? And women don't understand, why am I not wet? Why do I need to have lube? Why am I tense down there? It's because you're not tending to the outside, and to the vulva. It's so important. And so when we go internal on that last day, women are actually astonished because I'm tending so softly to each of their inner walls of their vagina and their yoni and their uterus. I'm teaching them this is your pubic bone and this is where, your G spot is. If you didn't know, this is what it feels like. And this is how you can tend to it yourself. Some women want to actually know, and I guide them with their own hands as well. Or we go to the bladder if somebody has prolapsed bladder, especially those of you who have gone through labor and have urgency. That's a big one that I actually tend to with women, of holding the bladder. And a woman had so much urgency. She would just like walk beside me and go to the bathroom because of what happened to her in labor. And I held her bladder for 45 minutes. And all of a sudden, it like moved upwards. And I knew what happened. So I'm like crying. But my client was like, "What just happened? I just felt something move in my body." And I was like, "That's your bladder coming back into its original state of where your body is. It just moved back into its original state." And that's what happens when the body feels safe. It comes back into its original harmonized state. It's been a year and a half since I tended to that woman, and she still doesn't have urgency. It's because we've never been taught. And if we even think about this as well, if we talk about regulation of the body and creation of infinity and life and creation itself, like when we tend to and actually touch our cervix, we're touching the point of our nervous system, our vagus nerve that comes all the way through our body to our brain. We have accessibility to touch and regulate at the source. Every single time I touch a woman's, I cry because I feel the creation of life and expansiveness of her potential and power. How fucking powerful is that, to touch creation itself? And we take our bodies for granted, you know? We don't know the power that we fucking hold within us. And we don't actually stand up and step into that power either, because we've been suppressed for so long. And so this is a remembrance, this is a revival of not only power and potential in life itself, of creation, but woman. Yeah. And yeah, so that's what we do on the 3 days. That's why it is long, because I take my time. I listen to the tissues and she listens to her body. When have we ever allowed ourselves to have that type of experience?
Never.
Yeah.
Never. And if it's such a beautiful experience that you're offering to women. And when you're sharing everything that you do, I think, wow, as women, there's a lot of work to do. As women, there's so much work to do in terms of reconnecting. Because if you ask a woman about her self-pleasure,
Mm.
with a partner or not, having
Yeah.
been in a long-term relationship or not,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like most women are like, get it in, like get in, get it done. I got shit to do. And you're talking, you'll spend 3 hours in session with yourself to connect with yourself. And in my head, I'm like, I don't have 3 hours. I don't have 3 hours. I don't have 3
Yeah.
hours. But even like, if it comes to pleasure, it's like quick.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, that's not normal, but it's been made normal because the woman, the womb, creation has not been prioritized. But if we actually lived in a different world, in a different reality, where the woman in the womb was prioritized exactly how you've shared in your session today, it would actually be a world where our pleasure would be. It's not even like sexual pleasure. It's actually just being taken care of pleasure. Yeah. Like even after birth, right? They say a 40-day postpartum period. It's like, no, no, no. It's like for life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
hard work being a mother.
Yeah.
And I need life care because
Yeah.
I'm touched out, and but as women, it's just blowing my mind how different our world would be if we actually tended to women. And I've said this many times without really understanding the depth of it until this very conversation, just how important it is as women to care for ourselves and to have our loved ones care for us. And it's not just like men tending to us, it's like our sisters, our mothers, our friends, like women, other women caring for us.
Mhm.
It's just not our world
Yeah.
yet.
Yet. Yet.
I see little, you're creating little bubbles of this reality though. And you could probably sit here and share so many incredible experiences of the women that you've tended to and how their lives have changed and how everything has shifted. I'm just, I'm really feeling the density
Yeah.
of where we're at currently and then feeling into the possibilities of what you're sharing and understanding the importance of this conversation and your work
Yeah.
and your devotion to it.
Yeah.
Because for you to get to where you're at now, it took a lot of self-devotion and commitment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to choose life no matter what, right?
Yeah. And it would have been a lot easier to not choose life many
Yeah.
times. Was it ever, because you're very connected with source and your soul family and your guides.
Mhm.
Now you're where you're at. Now that you're at where you're at and you're connected with your soul family and you're doing this work, looking in reflection, like looking in hindsight, can you see that they've taken you? Can you see the path that they've taken you on and why they took you the way that they took you?
Yeah, I do. And I want to be real too. I still feel injustice. I still feel injustice with what I've been through. A lot of people would say, you hear like the cancer survivors, like, oh, I wouldn't change anything. I would still get cancer again. It was the best thing that happened to me. And I was like, no, fuck that. I would have not gone through that. And I think that that is one of the reasons too, is like that I'm doing this work and teaching how women can do this themselves so that they don't have to get to the point that I did. They don't have to experience they don't have to face death, you know. They can do this themselves now.
Yeah.
So I hear that. I understand the journey. I can see both sides of it, but I still definitely have injustice with what happened. Yeah.
Yeah. I I don't blame you. I
Yeah.
don't blame you. What is it that your soul family is taking you on a very like specific journey, and I feel like they have a very important message to women, for women, about where we're at and where we need to go. Like they wouldn't have taken you on this through this experience as unjust as it is for it to land softly. So I feel like there's fire behind what your work is here to do.
Yeah. The biggest thing is that, and in the most simplistic terms, because I like to be just direct, is that like your body is the gateway. Like we are a human and a soul, but we're having a human experience here. Like we cannot separate or compartmentalize or put hierarchy on the channel or our soul or our gifts versus the human body itself, because then we just have wisdom. And without anything being embodied, what does that wisdom actually do? It puts us in dis-ease, right? And so I think the message here is that we all think about purpose of life. And a lot of us have this perception that the purpose of life is to be able to support and tend to others. What can I do for others? How can I teach others? What is my message for others? What is my method for others? What is my gift to others? But our purpose here is to be able to give to ourselves, to tend to ourselves, to be able to give the experiences that we desire to have. I mean, like, there is not another earth out there, right? There is not another chocolate fudge brownie sundae going around in another planet in our universe, right? We're here to have experiences. And the only way to have an experience is to be present in our body. Because that's the way that we actually experience life, is through feeling. And if we can't feel, then we're already dead. And so then why are we even here? If we're not allowing ourselves to be open to the experience of life and all duality of that. So that's the message. I'm here to resensitize vulvas, pleasure, bodies, women coming into their power and authority of their own voice and advocacy. Because when that happens, then we attract and magnetize everything, because we don't put ourselves at the low end of the totem pole. We are at the forefront. We are the first priority, not our kids, not our husbands, not our partners. We are. And when we are fed and nourished and loved and supported and held, everyone else is.
Wow. As you were speaking, I literally heard in my head The Walking Dead. I'm pretty sure there's a TV show called Walking Dead.
Mm-hmm.
But it brought new meaning, because when I observe humans across the globe, we're literally the walking dead, right? Because you're like, if you're not feeling, you're dead. And I'm like, we're literally the walking dead, because most of us don't feel. And when we feel, we avoid.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, wow, that's actually a really important piece of information. And then you were talking about, oh no, now it's gone from my head. Yay! I love when that happens. There's another really important piece of the puzzle, and now it's gone. It's all right. It'll come back if it needs to come back. But even just sitting on The Walking Dead, and then women, there's just, oh, that's what I was going to say. Thank you. Thank you. You were talking about prioritizing ourselves, right? And you were talking about purpose before. Everything you're saying is really, it's really opening up a lot of things that I haven't really fully understood the depths of. So like, this is a really important conversation. You're talking about prioritizing yourself. And I literally wrote a post about this yesterday, where I need to start putting me first, even above my children, because then they get the best version of me. And as I was writing it, it felt right to write it, but only until now, when you explained how you explained it, did it land fully what that actually means and how we're not doing that. I'm just reiterating the importance of this, because my mind is currently being blown. My heart is being cracked open, and the depth of the work that you're doing is really starting to land for me. And so it's really important that it lands for other women.
Yeah. I want to say that on children, because I work a lot with women, and mothers, I mean, and you know, gosh, when children, have behavioral aspects of things, or they're just being children, quite honestly. We think that like we have to fix them or create a structure for them or change something for them to be able to thrive in a different type of way. But actually, what is happening is that they are actually mimicking your own nervous system of the mother. And so when the mother comes back into relationship with her nervous system, then the child actually mimics that as well into regulation. And so I just really want to hone in and really ground into that of what you're saying. And we talked about the prioritization of self is also prioritizing others, your kids, your husband, partner, whatever, your friendships and whatnot. It's nourishing everything within your reality because you're being nourished and fed. And so then there's that reflection of, remember, like we are the creators of all life. So why wouldn't all life react to our inner world of if we're being fed or not? So I just wanted to hone in on that of when you brought up children. Yeah.
Thank you. You actually named something that I already do, but I didn't realize that I was doing it. And now that you've confirmed it, I can pay attention to it. And I encourage every mother to pay attention to it. But there have been many conversations in my family where my girls will all of a sudden be really feral. And I'm like, but I know that I'm off. Something's off with me. And I'll say to my husband, I think they're responding to me, like to my energy, because I'm anxious or I'm whatever it is. And he's like,
Mhm.
yeah, I think so too. And then there'll be
Mhm.
times where they're like these beautiful, like receptive, gentle energy. And they're like, we're having conversations and there's flow and there's creativity and everything's bliss and no one's having a meltdown or freaking out. And my husband will be like, you're in a really good mood today. Or like, you seem really grounded today. And I'm like, oh, like they really do respond. And we really don't prioritize ourselves without realizing we're truly impacting our kids in a not so healthy way when we're not prioritizing ourselves.
Yeah.
And even if we
Yeah.
don't have kids, it's the people around us. Like people respond to us,
Mhm.
our families, our colleagues, whatever it is, like people will notice, they'll notice.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like this it almost needs like a 3-hour documentary or something to like go into the
Yeah.
depths of this that you're doing. You did mention before that you would potentially share a practice with us.
Yeah, we can do a quick one.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I feel
If
like
you
if we're
want
going
to,
to,
if you have space and time.
yes, I do, because I think it's important that we give the space and time for women to be able to
Mhm.
reconnect. Yeah?
Yeah.
Is that something
Yeah.
that you'd be open to do?
Yeah, of course. Okay. I'm just gonna take all of my jewels off. Okay. So I think it's important to just take a breath after all of we just received and experienced and allowed to settle into our bodies. And just really allowing you to breathe very slowly in and very slowly out. Letting go of all of the thinking in the minds and putting down the tension within your shoulders, releasing the tongue from the roof of your mouth. Just allowing yourself to be right now in this present moment in your body. And I would love for you to be able to come into connection with your body and asking for consent to be touched with your own hand. And so you can say that in your mind's eye, you can say that out loud, and your body will respond very directly. And if she said no, what I would love for you to do is where I am guiding you to just hover over that area and not actually physically touch it. so that you can instill the safety and intention of your body. And you can also come back to asking that same consensual question to the body 30 seconds or to a minute afterwards until your body feels safe enough to say yes. So now, if your body has said yes, I would love for you to be able to take your left hand, full palm, and put it on your forehead. And I would love for you to take your right hand and put it at the back of the base of your neck. Beautiful. And we're just going to hold here and we're going to breathe. We're just going to breathe into these two areas. Coming into deep connection with our structure, with our bones, with the form that actually creates how we look, how we are perceived, how we belong within our social structures and family and self. Let's just take another breath here. And let's shift our hands to come on either side, full palms of our temples, and just hold our face. Oh, oh, it's like a full body exhale. You're going to start to feel that tension release within your hands, within your head, and dispersing of all that overthinking, of that to-do list, to allow your body just come into that regulation and safety, being held by your own hand. Mm. Okay, we can move down to our jaw. It's like we're actually just holding either side of our jaw with both our hands and cradling our head for full-on support to the point where our head just is cradled and lets go of all of that tension because it feels safe to be held. Just allowing yourself to really utilize your breath as we're coming into deep connection and reverence with our voice, the words that we have suppressed or swallowed. Mm, beautiful. And now that we've just instilled that safety, I just want to share something that you can do is taking your right hand of your wrist and coming up to your forehead and full palm on your skin. Just go and glide the edges of your face very slowly in devotion, and you're going to feel your body signaling if it wants you to stop in an area, stop and just hold. If it wants to continue, allow it to continue. If you feel resistance or tension within a spot, I want you to breathe into that area. We're coming all the way down past your ear and your throat to your neck, and oh, giving yourself such a sweetness touch to your body, to your face. recognizing your own beauty, your own texture. And we're going to do that on the same thing on the other side, the left side of your hand, caressing the edges of your face and hairline, going so slow, witnessing every tissue. Down into your jaw and your throat. And your body is going to have these beautiful signals of, oh, where it wants to move and touch. And this is normal. But this is something that you can do very easily in your morning when you're laying in bed before the kids get up, just to come back into relationship of who you are, the groundedness of the belonging to self, and not having this imposter syndrome of who you need to look like or conform to, and how you represent your own self in safety. So, yeah.
Thank you.
You're
I can
welcome.
safely say I've never done that before.
And
And
you have a new like energy. Look at that hair. The fullness of it.
wow. I actually really look forward to doing this in the evenings, like just before I go to sleep, when everyone
Yeah.
else is asleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no words. I just have
Yeah.
so much love and gratitude.
Oh,
Thank you for sharing that practice, because I guarantee you 99.9% of the listeners would have never have done anything like that. Even in those few minutes, we wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
So it's so important.
Mm-hmm.
Before we wrap up, just real
Mm.
quick, if
Yeah.
women want to work with you, if they want to deepen this work with you, how can they do that? Where can they find you?
Come to me, mama. No.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you want to learn how to do this yourself, I have a signature program. It's called Womb Wealth. And I'm actually going to be holding space for that live starting in May. So if anybody wants to connect with me on Instagram, that would be the best way to be able to do so. And I also have, if you want to do in-person work where I'm actually tending to your body and you're tending to others and you have other sisters and breaking down that sisterhood wound and shame of the body and whatnot, then I do retreats as well. And I have a retreat coming up in Bali in September that we're going to be tending to our bodies. So those are the beautiful offerings that I have. And if you want to be specifically tended by me as well, you can reach out to me on my Instagram and we can talk about womb and pelvic care of what I was talking about, my 3-day immersion. Yeah.
Amazing. I look forward to dropping all those links in the show notes where we went to find you. Jaime, thank you so much for today. Truly.
Thank you for allowing me to be here and have a voice. Yeah.
Absolutely. I have thoroughly enjoyed this, and this is deep medicine, deep wound medicine that every woman needs. So thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Thank you for being here, gorgeous woman, for rising with us, remembering with us, and refusing to shrink inside a world that benefits from your silence. If this episode moved you, cracked you open, or reminded you of who the hell you are becoming, share it with a woman who is ready to rise too. I want to invite you to follow, subscribe, and leave a rating so this message becomes too loud, too wild, and too undeniable to be ignored. The movement grows because of women like you. Women who choose truth over comfort, liberation over obedience, and voice over disappearance. You can connect with me, Samantha Sanford, at Rebel Matriarch, and all links to our guest are in the show notes below. Until next time, stay rooted, stay rebellious, and remember, the world changes when women refuse to disappear.